Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I'm Tom Betts, your host. This is the last episode of season 7, episode 9, number 130. I tell you up front, we've been having technical difficulties again with the internet connection. Not that it blacks out, but I freeze. So I'll continue to talk, but just warning you up front, we may have problems. Anyways, today we're going to talk about history of the spaghetti westerns. The Sheriff Won't Shoot, starring Mickey Hargitay. Whatever Became Of, we're going to talk about Jeffrey Lewis. Who Are Those Guys will be Neil Summers. Film of the week is My Name Is Nobody, so you know why we've connected Jeffrey Lewis and Neil Summers to the film of the week. I've got an autograph of the week. I've got a book of the week, a couple of posters. The LP and CD will be on My Name Is Nobody, and then we'll wrap things up with, I guess it's the bi-weekly news now. Okay, so we'll get started with the history of the spaghetti western and The Sheriff Won't Shoot. Okay, history of the spaghetti westerns, The Sheriff Won't Shoot. This is a 1965 Italian and Spanish film co-production. The Italian title is Lo Sheriffo Non Spara. The Spanish title is El Sheriff No Dispara. And the English title is The Sheriff Won't Shoot. Producers are Sergio Newman and Vincent Cascino, and Cascino appears in the film, one of the main actors. The director is J.L. Monter, that's Jose Luis Monter, and Lionel L. Prestel, who's Renato Poselli. Story is by Guido Malatesta. Screenplay, and I hate when they have multiple screenwriters because it's usually garbage. But in this case, it's not too bad. Anyways, the screenplay is by Reynat Rislang, whoever that is, Guido Malatesta, Jose Luis Montero, Carmen Martinez, who's Maria del Carmen Roman, Vincent Cascino, and Lionel A. Pestrel, which is again Renato Poselli. Cinematography is by Ace Perelin. It's in Telecolor and Panoscope. Music is by Felix De Stefano. That's Felice De Stefano. And the running time is 98 minutes. The main actors are Alan Day, played by Mickey Hargitay, Sheriff Jim Day, played by Dan Clark, Desiree Vermont, played by Pilar Clemens, Baron Vermont, played by Vincent Cascino, as again, like I said, he's the producer, and Rita is played by Solvi Stubing. Also, some names you'll recognize in the cast are Lulu or Colette, played by Aish Nana. Brett is played by M. Lopez Zarzo, that's Manny Zarzo. Brett is played by M. Lopez. I just said that. I'm sorry. Sam is played by Sancho Gracia. He's the highlight of the film. Anyways, the story goes, Jim, played by Dan Clark, is a gunslinger who no longer uses his guns because during a prior gunfight, he accidentally killed his father. He agrees, however, to become the sheriff of Richmond after a stagecoach has recently been robbed of $100,000 and a fierce band of outlaws terrorizes the area. The situation becomes difficult when he learns the leader of the gang of outlaws is his brother Alan, played by Mickey Hargitay. Alan is working with the local banker Baron Vermont, played by Vincent Cascino. Knowing Jim won't use his guns against him, Alan and the gang continues its reign of terror while the sheriff tries to restore calm in the country. Alan figures to head west to avoid a confrontation with his brother. The only problem with his plan, he stashed $100,000 in loot that he took from the stagecoach in the town bank, and now it's disappeared. He's not leaving the town without the money. He kidnaps Vermont's daughter, Desiree, played by Pilar Clemens, in hopes of obtaining the money in exchange for her release. A conflict also arises between the gang members on the division of the money, and they have a falling out. They end up riding into town to confront Vermont and get the money. After a massacre in the saloon, think the Great Silence Massacre, only Alan is left. He shoots and kills Vermont, only to be shot and killed by Desiree. Jim takes off his badge and leaves town with Rita, played by Solvi Stubing, the daughter of the murdered sheriff who Jim replaced. This is a poorly directed and a bad script, bad music, and almost amateur acting. This is not an A-class spaghetti western. This is a B-class for sure. One of the saving factors is Sancho Gracia. He's excellent as Sam, the henchman of Allen's. The women are basically window dressing, given poor dialogue, and they just stand around and drool over Sheriff Jim. This looks like an American Western for the most part, with Sheriff Jim dressed in white and Allen dressed in all black. There's also a love triangle here with Jim, Allen, and Desiree, with Desiree actually in love with Allen after being kidnapped, tortured, and abused. Massacre at the end of the film, which is one of the best shootouts of the genre, with dead bodies strewn all around. So you can watch it. It's watchable. I'd rate it C, C minus, but it is watchable. And for completists, it's a must see. As far as actor profiles go, Alan, played by Mickey Hargitay. Mickey Hargitay was born Miklos Karoli Hargitay in Budapest, Hungary on January 6, 1926. He was a film and TV actor. The bodybuilder was best known for working with fellow bodybuilders and future spaghetti western actors Gordon Mitchell and Dan Battis in Mae West's Las Vegas Review in the 1950s. He met and married Jane Mansfield and is the father of actress Mariska Hargitay, along with 3 sons who are also actors. Mickey died in Los Angeles on September 14, 2006 at the age of 80. He appeared in 5 European westerns. We covered him more extensively in episode number 2. Sheriff Jim Day is played by Dan Clark. Dan Clark was an alias of Marco Mariani, who was born in Rome on June 18, 1926. He was a film actor who appeared in 36 films between 1954 and 1973. Among those were 4 spaghetti westerns. He was also billed under the aliases Mark M-A-R-C, Marion, and Mark M-A-R-K, Marine. Other than that, little is known about him. He died in Rome on September 28, 1970, at the age of 44. Pilar Clemens is the stage name of Maria del Pilat Rodriguez. She was born in Malaga, Spain, sometime in the early 1940s. We don't have a specific date. She was a theater, film, and TV actress who was married to a man named Gustave Diaz de Vivar, and they moved to Paraguay, his homeland, where she appeared in theater plays. The couple had 3 children. Her only other spaghetti western was as a newlywed in 1972's Sonny and Jed with Tomas Milian. Then we have Baron Vermont, played by Vincent Casino. Vincenzo Casino was an Argentinian producer, production manager, director, writer, film editor, and film actor. We don't have a date of his birth, nor do we have a date if he has passed away. He worked on half a dozen films in the mid-1960s and then disappeared. This was his only spaghetti western. Rita was played by Solvi Stubing. Solvi Stubing was born in Berlin, Germany on January 19, 1941. She moved to Italy and made a name for herself as the blonde in the Peroni beer TV commercials. Those are available on YouTube if you want to see them. She also appeared in Playboy and Playmen and made about 30 films. Among those were 3 European westerns. Besides this, she played the bride in Blind Man in '71 and a larger role as Peter Lee Lawrence's sister in Goringo in 1966. After her film career ended, she entered politics and ran for the European Parliament on the Alleanza Nazionale party ticket. She died on July 3rd, 2017 at the age of 76. Okay, now we'll move along to Whatever Became of Jeffrey Lewis. For some, you say, did Jeffrey Lewis really play in spaghetti westerns? Yes, he did. Jeffrey Bond Lewis was born on July 31st, 1935, in San Diego, California. He moved with his parents to Rhode Island and then back to California at the age of 10, where he spent much of his youth in Wrightwood, California. Wrightwood is in the mountains north of Los Angeles. In California, he studied theater arts at San Bernardino Valley College for 2 years, then worked as a truck driver and other odd jobs before launching his career as an actor. He went to New York and took acting classes at the neighborhood playhouse in New York City and performed off Broadway at regional theaters in Massachusetts. He then returned to California and attempted to break into Hollywood in the 1960s while appearing in character roles in films like The Great Waldo Pepper, Down in the Valley, The Butcher, Maverick, When Every when every when every day was the 4th of July, The Lawn Mower Man, but Lewis is best remembered for his appearances in various films made and starring Clint Eastwood, such as Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, Pink Cadillac, Any Which Way You Can, Bronco Billy, Every Which Way But Loose, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, and High Plains Drifter. Aside from his on-screen performances, Lewis also lent his voice to various animated projects. He provided voices for animated series such as Hercules, the animated series, and The Legend of Tarzan, further showcasing his versatility as an actor. Lewis was also a talented musician. He played the guitar and wrote and performed songs, displaying his creativity in multiple artistic mediums. In my research, I discovered that in the 1980s, Lewis competed in and wanted to become a professional speed skier. He even trained to compete in Camel North American Speed Skiing Championships held in Arapahoe Basin, Colorado in April of 1984. He competed earlier in the Camel Sprint Series in January of that year, finishing 19th out of 82 skiers, reaching a speed of 54 miles per hour. He eventually reached the ranking of 7th in the world in the over 40 class. Lewis was married at least 5 times and had at least 9 children, including actors Brandy Lewis, Lightfield Lewis, Deirdre Lewis, Matthew Lewis, Emily Lewis, and Juliette Lewis, and they appeared together in the 2002 Euro Western Blueberry, also known in the United States as Renegade, starring Vincent Cassel. Besides Blueberry and My Name is Nobody, Lewis also appeared with Juliana Gemma in 1978's Silver Saddle as Two Strike Snake. He also appeared in the Lucky Luke series with Juliana Gemma. Lewis died on April 7, 2015 from complications of Alzheimer's. He was 79. I'll post his filmography after we end this episode on YouTube and Facebook. Okay? Now we'll move along to Who Are Those Guys and Neil Summers. Okay, Neil Summers. I met Neil Summers in Rawhide, Arizona at a film festival in 1994, and we've communicated back and forth ever since. Nicholas Neil Summers was born on April 28, 1944 in Blackpool, Lancashire, England. His father, Walter Wally Summers, born in 1914, died in 2007, was a champion bicycle rider in both England and the United States. The family moved to South Africa in the 1950s and then to Canada before settling down in Phoenix, Arizona when Neil was 14. Neil grew up watching westerns, and his all-consuming passion was to be a cowboy in the movies. I loved Indians, the posses, and bad guys. It was all so exciting to me, Neil said. During summer vacations, Neil was able to live his dream when he would get hired as a horseback rider for westerns being filmed nearby. He graduated from Saddleback High School and made his way to Hollywood to realize his career in films. California held promise for a young man who was interested in westerns, good with horses, and didn't mind getting shot. Neil was working ever since as a fully accredited member of the Stuntmen's Association. Summers has been tapped countless times through the years to perform courageous daredevil acts. In other words, he's the hardworking guy who makes the movie stars look good. He worked on TV's Gunsmoke from 71 to 74 as an extra and stuntman. It's all I've ever done for over 40 years, Summer said. I grew up watching all the cowboys on TV. I just wanted to be a cowboy in the movies. I had no interest in staying inside. I started working as an extra and they eased me up. Neil played Snake River Rufus Cryle in the 1972 film The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean. He's been shot by Clint Eastwood, killed by John Wayne, and tangled with the best of them. Neil was spotted by director Sergio Leone in The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean and hired him for the role of Squirrel in My Name is Nobody, 1973. He quickly became friends with actor Terence Hill and has appeared in 7 of Hill's films and television series, including Lucky Luke in 1990 as Deputy Virgil and the TV series of the same name in the same role. Troublemakers in 1994 as Dodge, and Hill's most recent TV westerns Doc West and Triggerman. Today, Neil is retired in Cornville, Arizona, a suburb of Sedona, and his last work was a stunt coordinator on the TV series Longmire. By the way, Neil has one of the largest collections of Western movie memorabilia in the world. Several pieces of his Western collection are on display at the Gene Autry Museum of the American West in Los Angeles. Along with his collection of memorabilia, Neil has also written several books: Candid Cowboys Volume 2, Unsung Heroes, and TV Western Roundup, about the Westerns and the stars and stuntmen who made them. He also wrote a column, Action Actors by Neil Summers, for Boyd Major's monthly magazine, Western Clippings. Neil has a historical marker in his honor in KNAB, Utah's Walk of Fame, and was awarded the Angel Halo Award by the Southern California Motion Picture Council in 2001. Again, I'll post his filmography on YouTube and Facebook when we post this episode. Okay, let's move along to the CD LP of the week. Okay, let me grab the right papers, that might help. Okay, the LP and CD first started out with an LP in 1973. This was issued in Germany. It was on the Areola label, number 87582IU. Only has 10 tracks of music with a listing time of 32 minutes and 14 seconds. It's worth $40. This is a decent album. It's a fold-out LP. Shows the Wild Bunch on the inside. The back shows nobody from the front. The front shows nobody from the back. Okay, then we move along to 1979 when another LP was issued out of the United States on Cerberus. It's CEMS0101. It only has 6 tracks of music with a listening time of 32 minutes and 4 seconds. It's valued at $35. Then we finally get into CDs. We have a CD issued in 1995 from France on EMI number 835628-2. It has 10 tracks of music, listening time of 32 minutes and 24 seconds. It's valued at $26. The nice thing about the CDs is they usually come with booklets which give you information on the film, what it's about, cast list sometimes, and about the composer. Okay, then we have a CD that came out in 2000 from Italy on Screen Tracks, number 33 CDST330, 23 tracks of music. Listening time on this is an hour, 12 minutes, and 58 seconds. It's worth $22. There's the back of it. And then we have finally a CD came out in 2021 on Beat. It's BCM 9595. Has 23 tracks of music, listening time of an hour, 13 minutes, 26 seconds. Value is 20 minutes and 23 seconds. Of course, it was issued on other labels, complete soundtracks, and compilation discs, but we can't get into those. Be here forever. Okay, we've gone over Morricone as a composer, so I thought I would talk about the choral group I Cantori Moderni by Alessandroni. Alessandroni formed the group originally as an octet in 1962. Occasionally, other singers would sing with the group on a semi-regular or one-time basis. Some of the better-known singers in the group were Etta Del Orso. She's famous for singing The Ecstasy of Gold from The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. She was born in 1935, and thankfully she's still with us. Giulia de Mutis, who was Alessandroni's wife. She was famous for singing Wishville in $7 to Kill. She was born in 1938, but unfortunately she died in 1984. Then we have Raul Lovecchio, who's basically known as Raul, who is famous for singing Stranger in Any Gun Can Play and various other soundtracks. He was born in 1939, and honestly, I don't know if he's still alive or not. I haven't seen anything printed on him in a long time. And then we have Gianna Spagnolo, born in 1956, died in 2017. The group was together until Alessandroni's death in 2017. As a group, they were involved in over 30 spaghetti westerns. Okay, now we'll move on to the film of the week. My name is Nobody. Okay, film of the week. My name is Nobody. This is an Italian, French, West German film co-production made in 1972. The Italian title is Il mio nome è nessuno. The French title is Mon nome es persone. The German title is My name ist nobody. An alternate English title is Lonesome Guns. The producers were Fulvio Marcella, Claudio Mancini, and Sergio Leone. Story is by Leone, Fulvio Marcella, and Ernesto Gastaldi. Screenplay is by Gastaldi. Cinematography is by Armando Nannuzzi and Giuseppe Ruzzolini. It's in Technicolor and Panavision. Music is by, of course, the maestro Ennio Morricone. Runs 118 minutes. The main actors are Jack Beauregard, played by Henry Fonda. Nobody, played by Terence Hill. The Wild Bunch leader is played by Jeffrey Lewis. Sullivan is played by Gene Martin. Some of the more recognizable names in the cast are the sheriff is played by Piero Lulli. Pedro is played by Mario Brega. Pentelli is played by Benito Stefanelli. Honest John is played by R.K. Armstrong. That's right, he was billed as R.K. Armstrong, not R.G. Armstrong. The fake barber in the beginning of the film is played by Steve Canale. You remember him from the Dallas TV show. A U.S. Army officer who pops up is Antonio Molino Rojo. As we mentioned before, Squirrel is played by Neil Summers. And then we have in the carnival scene, you'll see Terrence take an apple from a child's hand. The child is played by Jess Hill. That's Terrence's son. Story goes, the young and carefree nobody, played by Terence Hill, is more easily to joke than to use his gun, of which he is very skilled. He has as his idol a legendary gunslinger, Jack Beauregard, played by Henry Fonda. The old, tired gunslinger, who has a score to settle with the man who killed his brother, Red, is more content to fetch some gold now, wanting to leave the West and embark for Europe. When nobody comes across his hero, he refuses to believe that it's a disappointing truth and decides Beauregard cannot leave before letting him live one more last adventure, which will make history, the extermination of the Wild Bunch, 150 outlaws who terrorize the western states. Nobody uses his wits, so as to force the reluctant Jack to face the gang, which fall under the blows of his rifle when nobody fills their saddlebags with dynamite. In a bizarre final duel in New Orleans, the intended to give glory to no one, nobody pretends to kill Jack, then sees him climb onto the ship that will lead eventually to Europe. Neil Summers told me he was asked by Benito Stefanelli if he wanted to ride with a Wild Bunch, and since Neil had nothing to do that day, he accepted the role to ride as on one of the white horses. Also, Jose Torron, who we've covered before, is one of the riders. Uh, as far as talking points go, the reason this film was made was Sergio Leone was very disappointed, as most of us were, when the genre he helped create turned to making comedy westerns. Not only did he find himself distasteful, but not very creative in their stories or directing. Since he couldn't beat the trend that the Italian audience had now embraced, he decided to show the industry how the master could make a comedy western. He hired Terence Hill, who along with Bud Spencer were viewed as the creators of the comedy western and the highest grossing Italian film at that time. Hill was to star with a veteran actor and an actor Leone admired, who he had worked with on Once Upon a Time of the West, Henry Fonda. Hill would be the clown to Fonda's straight man. At first, we think of the man with nobody when we see the title My Name is Nobody. I'm sorry. At first, we think of the man with no name when we see the title My Name is Nobody. But in a clever part of the story, nobody becomes a significant clog in the wheel that the entire story revolves around. Nobody becomes a nuisance and a clown to Jack Beauregard, but in the end, he becomes very useful to Jack's venture to leave the West behind. We also see that by the end of the film, both of the main characters obtain their dream. Nobody sees Jack go down in history by wiping out the Wild Bunch, and Jack is able to go to Europe not having to look over his shoulder because he supposedly killed in a gunfight. There's several clever gags and a handful of Western veterans along for the ride. R.G. Armstrong, Leo Gordon, Jeffrey Lewis, Mario Brega, Piero Lulli, and Neil Summers. Filmed mostly in the United States, in Arizona, New Mexico, and New Orleans, it's not everyone's cup of tea, as some scenes are too long and others really have no relationship to the main plot, but still, all in all, it's not a bad film. While some of Hill's comedy seems goofy and doesn't work that well, most of it is very funny. There are moments of pure genius. The shooting scene in the saloon is a particular favorite of mine and well done. It's also the barbershop scene is also classic. Uh, Valerie successfully marries the two styles into a very enjoyable experience. The scenes with Fonda and Hill together are as good as you'll see in a spaghetti western. Also, a welcome sign is Morricone's score that is well done and helps set the tone in many of the scenes. How much of the film was directed by Leone has always been debated. Neil Summers told me Sergio and Valerie both directed different parts of the scene in the bar room with Terence Hill when they shoot the different sized bar glasses. Leone also shot the carnival sequence, and director John Landis, who is an extra in the film, claims Leone directed the Jack Beauregard versus the Wild Bunch horse scene. Let's say Valerie shot about 90 to 90% of the film, and Leone shot some of the second unit shots. Locations include the town of Mogollon, New Mexico, seen in the opening scenes, White Sands for the Nobody Wild Bunch riding scene, Yocoma Pueblo, where Fonda faces Hill in the Indian graveyard, where all the railroad scenes were filmed in Calahorra, Spain. As far as actor profiles go, excuse me, Jack Beauregard was played by Henry Fonda. Since John Wayne never appeared in a spaghetti western, Henry Fonda was probably the biggest American Hollywood star at the time to make one. He had been nominated for a Best Actor award for his performance in 1941's The Grapes of Wrath and would win an Oscar for Best Actor in 1982 for On Golden Pond. He was born Henry James Fonda in Grand Island, Nebraska on May 16, 1905. He was a producer, film, and TV actor. He appeared in over 125 films and television shows. He had worked with Sergio in 1968's Once Upon a Time in the West and was more than happy to work in a Spaghetti One More Time that Sergio was connected with. Hank is the father of Jane and Peter Fonda. He died in Los Angeles on August 12, 1982, at the age of 77. Next, we have Nobody, played by Terence Hill. Hill was born Mario Girardi on March 29, 1939, in Venice, Italy. He's a producer, director, writer, film, and TV actor. Most famous for appearing with Bud Spencer in 17 films. Under his real name, he had already appeared in half a dozen German westerns before teaming with Bud and appearing solo in several spaghetti westerns. He is the husband of screenwriter Lori Hill and the father of Jess Hill and the adopted Jess Hill, who died in 1990 at the age of 16. Hill recently semi-retired after his 23-year TV career in Don Mateo. We covered him in his own special episode, number 43. The Wild Bunch leader was played by Jeffrey Lewis, who we just covered. Sullivan was played by Gene Martin. Gene Martin was born in Paris on March 3, 1922. He was a theater, film, TV, and voice actor who appeared in over 110 films and TV series between 1944 and 1998. He would later work again with Terence Hill in his only other spaghetti western as Colonel Pembroke in 1975's The Genius. Martin died in Paris on February 2, 2009, a month short of turning 87. Then we have a conundrum. Dirty Joe. Dirty Joe is not listed in the credits of any released film production of My Name is Nobody, yet he always plays an important part. In IMDb and most reference books, he's credited as Antonio Palombi. The IMDb credits him as Joseph Bradley. The reason he's credited as Joseph Bradley is Lee Van Cleef stated multiple times that he paired up with the bartender and for a few dollars more because the bartender was a retired English railroad man who could speak English and Spanish proficiently, and he would pal around with Lee when they went to eat at restaurants and bars and translate for Lee. So that's where the Joseph Bradley name came from. The only published reference to who Dirty Joe is was in a German press kit. He's cast as Ulrich Muller. So is he Ulrich Muller? Is he Joseph Bradley? Is he Antonio Palombi? There's the German press admat that was released where his name appears. Whoever this guy is, he appears in the following spaghetti westerns. Dollars for a Fast Gun in 65, you can see him as a gambler in a saloon scene. For a few dollars more, he's the El Paso bartender in 65. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly in 65, this so-called actor appears in the Confederate Century in a scene that's usually eliminated but is in the full release. In Face to Face, he's a stagecoach passenger. That was in 67. In Once Upon a Time in the West, he pops up as the cattle corner station master in 1968. In My Name is Nobody, he's Dirty Joe. And in Sonny and Jed, he's also a stagecoach passenger, and that was in 72. So I'll leave the decision up to you, but those are the three references of Dirty Joe. Okay, let's move on to Autograph of the Week. Okay, Autograph of the Week. We've got Neil Summers. These are little ads that he would pass out, give his filmography, stamp his agent's name on there for contact. I got one of those at one of the film conferences we attended. Okay, how about Book of the Week? Okay, book of the week. Tonino Valeri, the films. It's in English. Has a foreword by Christopher Frayling, afterword by Ernesto Gastoldi. It's by Roberto Curti. Has pictures in it. Has 226 pages. Highly recommended. It gets into the whole story on My Name is Nobody and who directed what and who directed who. So that's highly recommended. That's still available. Okay, how about a couple of posters from Tom's Poster Attic? Okay, this I've got to show you is the American Press book. This one's a little bit different. It's released like that. It's just stapled up in the corner. But again, shows ad mats that came out in the newspapers, gives a storyline, smaller ad mats that you can put in there. And then I've got the American poster. And there we go. Let me start at the bottom. Nobody but nobody knows the trouble he's in. And again, they reference the Trinity character. Nice artwork. And that's the American poster. Okay, we'll put that out of the way and we'll get into the weekly news. Okay, now called the bi-weekly news. Got a bunch of DVDs, a book, an LP, and some Boot Hill entries. First one I want to talk about for a minute is a new French Blu-ray DVD combo of Un Pistolet pour Ringo. That's a pistol for Ringo. Came out in '65, directed by Duccio Testari, stars Juliana Gemma, Fernando Sancho, Nieves Navarro, and Antonio Casas. This was released on April 2nd on the Artist Films label. It contains 2 discs. It's uncut version, 2K remastered. It's in Italian and French with French subtitles. The Blu-ray runs 98 minutes. The DVD runs 94 minutes. Extras include an intro by Kurt Rydell, a trailer, and a photo gallery. Then we have another French Blu-ray DVD combo of Le Dernier Jour de la Colère, which is Day of Anger, 1967, directed by Tonino Valeri, starring Lee Van Cleef, Juliana Gemma. This was released on April 2nd, again on the Artist Films label. It's uncut. 2K remastered edition contains 2 discs. It's in Italian and French with French subtitles. The Blu-ray runs 111 minutes while the DVD runs for 107. Extras include again an intro by Kurt Rydell, interviews with Ernesto Gastaldi and Roberto Curti, a trailer, and a photo gallery. Then we have a third French Blu-ray and DVD release, El Viva la Revolucion, which is Long Live Your Death, 1971, directed by Duccio Testari, stars Franco Nero, Eli Wallach, and Lynn Redgrave. This was released on April 4th on the BQHL label. Languages are PCM stereo French, English, Italian, and French with French subtitles and a running time of 103 minutes. Extras include an intro by Jean-Francois Guerre. This is a comedy, but it's well done. This is one of the few comedies that I like, and it really works. Then there's a new Spanish double DVD of Dos Granuas en el Oeste, Ojo per Ojo. This is Buddy Goes West, and Today It's Me, Tomorrow You. This was released on April 7th on the Impulse label. It's in Spanish and Italian with Spanish subtitles. Film runs 88 and 91 minutes. And then we have a new Italian vinyl LP, which was released for a few dollars more by composer Ennio Morricone. It's on the AMS Records label, number AMSLP 166G. It's a 12-inch, 45 RPM with 8 tracks of music. So you that are back into collecting vinyl, there's a new vinyl release. And then we have a new French book release, which I've covered before, but I wanted to mention this now because it's been released in English. This is a book called We Call Him Terence Hill by authors Alexandre Alfonsi, Jean-Marie Lambert, from the publisher Karlenko Editions. It's in French, German, Italian, Spanish, and English. It contains 200 pages and released on March 29th. Like I said, I posted about this before, but it was only available in French at that time. You can get this from the Terence Hill online shop. Now we have 3 entries into Boot Hill. First one is Turker İnanoglu. He was a Turkish producer, director, and writer. He died in Istanbul, Turkey on April 2nd. He was 87. He was born in Karabük, Turkey on May 18, 1936. He became interested in the cinema when he was a student at the Istanbul Academy of Applied Fine Arts in 1957. After working as an assistant director to directors Omar Lütfi Akhtar and Nislan Hangser in 11 movies, he directed his first feature, Senden Eri Yakut, in 1960. After directing 9 movies, he founded his own film company, Erler Films, in 1960, which is today the oldest film production company in Turkey, still in business. Since then, he produced 126 black and white and color films, among them 21 co-productions with Greece, Italy, and Iran. He executed also the productions of American, Japanese, French, and German filmmakers' documentary films shot in Turkey. He's directed 82 movies. He produced the spaghetti western Cowboy Kid in 1973, directed by Guido Zerli, in which his son Ilker starred. And we have Ernesto Gomez Cruz, a veteran Mexican actor who died from complications of Alzheimer's in Mexico City on April 6th. He was 90. Gomez Cruz was born in Veracruz, Mexico on November 7th, 1933. His first professional job was as a photographer. Later, through a friend, he was introduced to dramatic arts. Thus, he moved to the Aztec capital, where he studied acting at the National Institute of Fine Arts. Although he had been interested in music, he discarded that to become a film actor. He made his film debut in 1967 with the film Los Caifanes, where his performance as Els Azteca earned him the National Silver Goddess Award. Subsequently, he would obtain other awards and recognitions as an Ariel. Ernesto's only Euro Western was as Erno's only Euro Western was as The Witch in 2006's Banditas with Penelope Cruz and Salma Hayek. Last but not least, we have Eckhart Dux. He's a veteran German actor and voice dubber. Eckhart Dux died in Salzburg, Lower Saxony, Germany on April 9th. He was 97. He was born